Hello everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. Welcome back everybody who's been watching me for a while. I appreciate everybody who's subscribing and liking and everything. You guys are awesome. Love you to death. For those of you who are just stumbling onto my channel, I am the most notorious groupie in rock and roll history. The groupie book with the most rock and roll history in her book. 17 years in this book alone. I ended in 2002 because I am the woman that was with John Entwistle when he died. And that's when I kind of stopped. The last few chapters are, yes, I still go on. I still do the band game and everything. But this covers from 1984 to 2002. So not just rock and roll, but rap. Country, pop culture with the club kids in New York City, pop music with Duran Duran, Def Leppard, metal, a lot of years of rock and roll, a lot of rock and roll history in this book. So if you guys want to read it, link is down in the description. Go buy it. Biggest groupie book in the history of groupie books. Speaking of the biggest in the history of rock and roll, we are going to talk about the biggest legend in rock and roll history. And we're going to start today's vlog off with a question to let you know who that legendary rocker is. Because I've been with a few legendary rockers, so could be anybody, right? Nah, it's not just anybody. And my question for you today is, who's bigger, Lemmy or God? And if you're metal at all, you know the answer to that question. It's a trick question. Lemmy is God. Yeah, he is. So today we're going to talk about the most amazing, sweetest, funniest, most genuine human being, Lemmy Kilmister, Rock God. And in honor of Lemmy, we're going to have the classic, his favorite drink, Jack and Coke. So everybody grab your jacks, kick your feet up. Time for some cocktails and rocktails. Cheers, big ears. Okay, so this is not the first time I met Lemmy. Today's vlog, I first met Lemmy on the Operation Rock and Roll tour about 90-91. Believe it was earlier 91. I just started dancing. I was seeing Scott Dallahover of Dangerous Toys, who was on Operation Rock and Roll. So had been around Lemmy the night before while we were all at the hotel bar. And that was the first time I actually met Lemmy, but like I said, I was with someone else, so didn't hook up with Lem. So, it was just after Halloween in 91, and I just started dancing, was getting ready to go to my first Miss World Topless competition, which was beginning of December. Kristen and I had been hanging out. We had already planned to go to LA. We had already had the tickets. We decided we were going down kind of mid-November. Cool beans, gonna hang out, just have fun. Go to Disneyland probably, see what kind of rock and roll trouble we could get into. But about a week before we went, we were in Salt Lake City. It was Halloween. And there was another band who was just a bunch of really hot guys. I believe they were from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, somewhere around there. So we're hanging out with Accept. It was Halloween, and we were wearing these sheer body stockings, like pantyhose kind of material. Sheer. I was ice. Kristen was fire. So we had icicles and fire strategically painted to cover the bits that we couldn't be in public without getting arrested for. So we go to Accept. We're hanging out. They see us in our hair done up and our capes and our little skimpy costumes. Hey, ladies, come on the bus. All right. So, of course, we do. We're just hanging out with all the guys from both bands because they were kind of converging on both buses. When Accept came up with I think it was Udo that came up with the idea. You girls should dance on our stage during Balls to the Walls and a couple other songs. Cool beans, of course we will. Like I said, I had just become a stripper, so it was no big deal to me. I was used to now performing. So Kristen and I, we dance on their stage, we hang out. We're not fucking anybody or just, hang out with the boys, enjoying an evening, giving them an evening to enjoy as well. So when we get to talking, we're like, oh yeah, we're going to be in LA next week. They're like, oh, what days? We're going to be playing the Troubadour. So we tell them the days, and yeah, the first night we get there is when they are playing the Troubadour. And they were staying at the same place we were staying. The Riot House, of course. Because even in the 80s, we still stayed there, but nobody stays there. They haven't really stayed there probably since about 92-ish. Not long after this, is because anytime I'm in LA with the band, it's always the Sunset Marquee now. It's been that way for a few decades. Riot House has been for a long time. But this is the last time we stayed there, I believe. So, and the band was staying there, so we're hanging out. We go to the gig. We're on the guest list. We're walking in, and I run into two girls that I haven't seen in years at this point. And it was the two girls that I saw, if you've read the book, I talk about my first concert in Salt Lake City, Rat and Bon Jovi, and how I was standing in the front of the line for general admission, tickets. The only ticket I ever went in the front door, concert I ever went in the front door for, and I saw these two groupies that were very established on the scene. Sunny and, God, I can't remember the other girl's name. One of them had this long, spiky black hair, and the other one blonde, long, spiky. They were basically twins in the way they dressed, the way they did their hair, just different colors of hair. Hadn't seen these girls for a while since backstage they came into Kip Winger's dressing room eating all of their food, uninvited. Okay. So, run into them, walking into the troupe, and they're like, oh, hey, what are you girls doing here? We're like, oh, just visiting, yada, yada. Still dressed the same, those two. Cool to see them, nice girls. But, anyway, so we go in, and we go into that downstairs, the bar to your left, right as you walk into the Troubadour. And there's Robin Crosby from Rat, there's Lemmy and his manager, and a bunch of other people just hanging around, They're, oh, Lemmy. I'm like, oh, yeah, Lemmy. So we go in, and Kristen and I walk up to the bar, and I'm not dressed in rock and roll. Like, as groupies, we were always about fashion. Not fashion for rock and roll. Like, by the time Lip Service came out, fashion had already moved on. And I wasn't dressed, what you would think in a rocker chick going to a show at the Troubadour. I was just in a little plain kind of green turquoise simple dress with a nice cinched waist and some, I called them my Minnie Mouse shoes because they were platforms, round-toed, and they buckled up halfway, around the ankles and stuff. So just, looking normal. Not like in the spandex and shit that everybody else is around, and Kristen and I, and so we kind of stood out from the rest of the girls because, like I said, everybody else is in what you would expect, your typical Lip Service, big hair, chain belts, emulating Lemmy. So Lemmy and Robin and their manager noticed me and Kristen pretty early on from the second we walked in. Start talking, just, ordering drinks, and Lemmy keeps saying, you need to drink. He just kept ordering me Long Island iced teas all night long. Because there's a lot of alcohol in him. Oh, like you need to ply me to sleep with Lemmy. The second I saw him, that was the plan. I didn't know he would be there that night because we were just going to hang out with some friends, watch a show, go to the Troubadour, go back to our hotel room. Didn't know Lemmy would be there. So, the second I saw Lemmy, I'm like, let me write this appointment into my little black book here. So anyway, we were just talking, hanging out, told him what we were doing there. He's like, oh, we should go upstairs. Let's go up to the VIP room. And we did. All of us went up there. We're hanging out. And Kristen, like Robin Crosby was on Kristen like white on rice. But for some reason that night, and thank God she didn't because he had already been diagnosed HIV positive. And at the time, this was still a deadly disease. It wasn't like it is today. So thank God she didn't hook up with Robin that night. But yeah, we go upstairs, and one of the first things Lemmy asks me, you want to come in the bathroom and do a couple bumps? Nah. Not my thing. Which actually I think kind of impressed him and surprised him because most women he would meet would be like, yeah, whatever you're doing, I'll do what you do, Lemmy. Yeah, if you want me to do it and it's going to make me seem cooler to you, yeah. So the fact that I was kind of my own thing, and I was like, no, I'm not judging you. He's like, do you mind if I do? I'm like, no, go ahead. I'm not your mom. You get your party on. We're all getting our party on. He's like, all right. He's like, I've ordered you another Long Island iced tea. I'll meet you back at the ball. Okay, cool. So he goes in, does his bump, come out. We're just hanging out, talking, doing our thing. Show's played. Kristen's hanging out with the rest of the guys in Accept and their opening band. God, I wish I could remember that opening band's name because they were so fucking hot. And so anyway, night's winding down and Lemmy's like, come back to my place. Uh-huh. Of course I do. You're fucking Lemmy. And it wasn't about, Lemmy is actually incredibly sexy. And it's not just about his physical. It's about, because his soul and his aura and his being is just so amazing and confident and kicked back and just really was always comfortable in his own skin. Just being Lem. And I loved that about him and found that so incredibly attractive and sexy about him. And plus he was a really sweet guy who actually talked. Asked me questions about myself. I mean, I was even talking about, I was wanting to go start college back then, but for some reason I didn't because I was really busy, starting with features and starting magazines, and my stripping career was taking off, so I didn't really have a lot of time to go to college. But we were talking about that, and my original major that I wanted to do in college was architecture. But I suck hardcore at trigonometry, and anything above calculus was just, even calculus was a struggle. So when I actually did go to college, I switched my major to art history. So we were talking about that, and when we get back to his house, all right, you walk into Lemmy's apartment, same apartment he's had for a million years that they've seen in the documentary. You walk in the front door, and to the right was the living room, the kind of dining area where he had his desk and stuff, and then you wrap it around and there's the kitchen. Well, straight in front of you from the front door is the bathroom. To the left is the bedroom. So we come in and there's his brown plaid couches, just everything. And it wasn't like everything was very neatly put away, but it just was so overwhelming in the living room area. All these videotapes, because we're still in the years of VCR. DVDs are not around yet. And Vin and Lem to me are the same. Like, Vinny was the American rock star version of Lem, pretty much to me. So anyway, so he's got all these videotapes, just sea of videotapes. You could barely walk around the couches. His whole walls are just covered with memorabilia and like a place setting from Hitler's, and he wasn't prejudiced or anything like that. He was just really a war and history buff. That's it. He's one of the sweetest, kindest souls you will ever meet. So we go in and he's like, hey, let's make us a drink. He makes us a Jack and Coke. We're sitting there talking. We start making out. I think we had been kissing and stuff at the Troubadour, but really started hot and heavy on things after he made the drink, and we were sitting on the couch, and he's like, hey, I want to show you these videos of all this different architecture, that Hitler is in World War II and all this stuff, because he'd actually listened to our conversation, which was, I loved. And I love this about the rockers, because they always do. They always listen to the conversation and things about me. Another reason I spent so many years in rock and roll, because those are the only guys actually listening to you. Don't need to go anywhere else. Yeah. So he starts putting in the videotapes and stuff. He's like, I'm hungry. You hungry? We should get something to eat. Because he could tell I was probably a little bit more tipsy than I should have been with all the Long Island iced teas. I think I drank 3 of them. Which I'm a lightweight. So it doesn't take me a whole lot to get tipsy. Except my Vegas years. I could drink like a motherfucker in Vegas. So anyway, Lemmy goes. He's getting everything ready. And he's going to cook us some 3 a.m. spaghetti. 4 a.m. It was about this time. So he goes, puts the water on boil, gets the ragu sauce out, gets the sketties out, comes back in the living room. We're making out more, and I'm like, All right, time for some action. Yep, it's going down on Lemmy. And gentlemen, this is one of the reasons you do not hold a woman's head. When the woman is giving you oral, do not try and hold her head. She knows what she's doing 90% of the time. Don't hold her head, because there may be a reason she needs to suddenly... Kip Winger's already given us one of those reasons. Ugh. Nastiest sperm I've ever tasted. So, and keep in mind, I'm already tipsy. And I hadn't eaten since Kristen and I, before we got on the plane. We got off the plane, got checked into the hotel, got ready, went to the Troubadour. So, while I am down on Lemmy, he's got his head on the back of my... And I need to jerk up because I'm really good at deep throat, so I was showing him this. And he was enjoying it very, very much. And he had his head down on the back of his hand on the back of my head. Again, gentlemen, if a woman's giving you a blowjob, she probably knows what she's doing, so your hands are not needed for guidance or for pressure. Okay? Just for future reference. Yeah, because Lemmy was holding my head down, I wasn't able to jerk up when I felt my gag reflex and throwing up. So I threw up all over Lemmy's pee-pee. I did. My first legendary night, or not legendary, sleeping with the legendary Lemmy, I threw up on his dick. Didn't faze him though. Not at all. He was like, oh, you okay, sweetheart? You okay, sweetheart? So he just, he cleaned himself up, took us both in the bathroom, gave me a toothbrush, a new one out of the package, so I was brushing my teeth, kind of rinsing my mouth out, he was washing. Went back to what we were doing. Yep. Went into the bedroom, we're getting it on, water's still boiling out in the kitchen, we're not even paying attention to it. And come to Patreon to find out the dirty details, the pre-spaghetti action. So, coming out of the bedroom, he opens up his closet and he's like, oh, you gotta see these swords. I bought them from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because they get rid of stuff. And he opens up his closet. Kid you not. This is before he started wearing black boots again. Nothing but white Cuban-heeled boots. Lining. The whole bottom. Jean jackets, vests, jeans, black shirts, cowboy hats, and a bunch of swords that he was taking out and showing me. And they were beautiful pieces. Like, people don't realize... They wonder what happened to Lemmy's money? There. His investments, his memorabilia, because these were ancient Napoleonic or even before swords that he had bought from other museums and stuff. And not to mention all the memorabilia that was hanging around his house and stuff. He really had an amazing collection of many, many war memorabilia. Sorry, my tongue gets moving a little fast, which is probably why a lot of guys like me. Anyway. So yeah, I throw up on Lemmy's dick. We get it on. He makes me scatties. We eat our spaghetti. We're watching some of the architecture and stuff. We're talking. Just having a great conversation. Go at it again. We go to bed. So we wake up again around 11 and noon. We get me a cab to go back to the hotel. And he's like, hey. He's like, here's my card. He's like, how long are you going to be in town? I'm like, a week. He's like, and when I come to Salt Lake? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I want to see you again. So he gave me his card, which I do have pictures of that were on my website. You guys can go look at when it was posted from 15 years ago. And I'll post the picture here, but it was part of the stuff that was stolen in my storage unit, I think. Hold on, let me put you on pause. I'm going to have to search for this because when I first came back to Salt Lake City in 2016, I had a storage unit theft, and they stole a bunch of Lilique, the family heirlooms, some Fitch and Ford Dragon china, and they stole 2 plastic containers that were filled with nothing but like family pictures, my phone books, a couple of my phone books, my personal phone books that had like Lemmy's phone number and his card. Same with Vinny's. Same with Steve Jones. Actually, I still have Steve Jones' handwritten number and stuff. So, but I will post a picture of the card that Lemmy gave me at the end of the video with a couple other things for you guys to see, with the picture of me in the ice costume. So yeah, I mean, and the rest of the time I was in LA, Lem and I hung out like the next day, and Kristen and I were just wandering off. I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna go fuck off around Hollywood Boulevard, do, you know, the typical tourist things. Even though we had both seen them, we just sort of wanted to be stupid tourists for the day. Went shopping down Rodeo Boulevard that second day we were there after I had met Lemmy. He knew what room we were in, and I get back to the hotel, there's a message from Lemmy. So, yeah, that was... I got to spend the rest of the week with Lemmy. Kristen and I got our bellies pierced. And this is before people would actually really pierce the belly. I mean, we went to about 10 different places in Hollywood before we found someone that would pierce the belly. They pierce your nose. They pierce your lips. They would pierce your labia. But the belly is very tricky because it's got, it's right next to immunization glands and stuff. So, and it can get really... infected. As we've seen over the years, we've all seen pictures of that shit. So we find a guy, get our bellies pierced. He starts hanging around with us. We're hanging around Lemmy. We're just cruising to the Rainbow and stuff, and yeah. Spent the week with Lemmy, ordering in from the Pink Dot. Because you can only eat so much ragu and sketty. But I didn't throw up on his dick anymore. Yep. He learned that when I say I'm okay to let me not push one more Long Island iced tea onto me. But like I said, must not have faced him because he gave me his number. And we saw each other a couple more times. And then you lose contact over the years like you do. Fast forward to 2002. September 13th. I know the exact date. Because, no, it was September 12th. It was a Friday. Because it was, Robert Plant was playing on the 12th on a Friday. On the 13th, on a Saturday, The Who was doing their makeup gig from when John died. It's the same year John died, in 2002. So, I'm escaping all the paparazzi and stuff. And like I said, where did I go? To Psy. To hang out with the band and everybody and... be protected in their little circle. And I get off the plane. First thing I say, Sai's like, "What do you need? What do you need, baby?" And we hugged. First thing I say to Sai, I miss him so much already. But Sai just recently passed away. Rock and roll lost another huge legend. I mean, there's very few souls that are like this in rock and roll. Lemmy, Vinny, Sai. I was lucky to know all of them. But anyway, so I'm like, I don't care where we go, Sai. I just need to drink this fucking big. And we just started laughing. Got sushi. Then later on, we went to the Rainbow. And who did we run into? Lemmy. And Sai had not known yet. Like, you know, when you're hanging out with a groupie, you have a pretty good idea. She probably knows a few other rock stars. But not exactly which ones, because when you're hanging out with bands, other bands are not on our mind. We're not name dropping. We're not talking about our other adventures or anything like that. We're just living in the moment and talking amongst ourselves in the moment. So Sai doesn't know exactly who I know yet till we get to the Rainbow. And like I said, it's been years, a good decade since I've seen Lem. So 91, probably last time I saw him was around 92, 93. So we're talking 2002. So we go in and the news had just broke about, you know, I was confirmed. There was a woman with John. I wasn't just a rumor anymore. So that's the first thing Lemmy says. And then he sees me, he's like, I know you. And I'm like, yeah, we met back. He's like, yeah, Salt Lake City, Salt Lake City. I was like, yeah. And he's like, what about this? And he looked at Cy, and we were all sitting at a table at this point. And he looks at Cy, he's like, so what's this bird I hear about with John? I was kicking Cy under that table. I was like, bird. And I turned to Lemmy, I go, yeah, I'm that bird, Lem. And he's like, what? He's like, you. He's like, oh, girl. He's like, holy shit, babe. He's like, well, fuck, if you ask me, lucky man, I know I've had you suck my dick. So, Lemmy approved. There we go. There's one of my Lemmy stories. Like I say, stick around right about now, because I'm going to post a picture of me in the ice costume. I'm going to post a picture of Lemmy's card that he gave me while I was in LA. I still had it after all these years until my storage unit got broken into. Like I said, some of the stuff they stole, I don't get. Why are you stealing my family pictures? Why are you stealing phone books, which some of those numbers weren't even relevant anymore, you know? But anyway, so I'll post the pictures. And again, for everybody who's been subscribing, I so appreciate you guys. But always remember to hit the like button, because that helps promote my videos here on YouTube and gets me more time in search queues. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and hit my bells for some more cocktails and rocktails. Because like I said, for those of you who are just joining me, these stories so far that you've heard over the past few months, it's the tip of the iceberg. A lot more rock and roll legendary moments that you have heard about, but have never heard from someone who was there. So hit that subscribe button, folks. Hit the like button and hit my bells. See you next week for some more cocktails and rocktails. Thanks, everybody.